Hi Girl Scouts, this is Mrs. Shane here. It's my understanding that you guys are working on your drawing badge for Girl Scouts. I was not able to join you for your group meeting, but I can help you a little bit with this video, hopefully. So to earn your drawing badge, it sounds like you're going to be working with different mediums, which means different materials we use to create our art. That might be crayons, it might be pencils, that might be Sharpies, charcoal, colored pencils, markers. The medium is what we use to create our artwork with. And it also sounds like you have 5 different steps and you need to choose one from each. So step number 1, it looks like it says experiment with different materials. Sounds like you were supposed to go to a pumpkin patch and do an observational drawing of a pumpkin. So we have been doing that a little bit in art class. When I look at this pumpkin, a pumpkin is not a true circle. The pumpkin actually has different sections, so we're going to break it down into each section to make it look more realistic. The first section that I'm going to work with that I see is this middle section right here. So to draw that middle section, I'm going to draw a shape like this. I guess the shape kind of looks like maybe it looks a little bit like a oval. Maybe it looks like a hot dog, whatever you may think. That's your first middle section. Then from there, I have a section that comes off of the pumpkin, the first one to the right, and then one to the left. So I'm going to go ahead and add those as well. So off to the right, I'm going to draw a section, and off to the left, I'm going to draw. When I look at a pumpkin straight on, I see 1, 2, 3, but I also see 4 and 5 off to each side. So I need to add 2 more, one on the right and one on the left. The stem of a pumpkin is not a square, just like a pumpkin is not a perfect circle. So the stem actually has a shape. Depending on how you look at it, it kind of curves off to the side. So I'm going to make a line that curves, and then it's going to curve back over. If you look at the pumpkin straight on, that is all you'll see. If the pumpkin's at a bit of an angle, you can see that you can see some of the sections from the back. So if you would like to add a little more depth to your pumpkin, you can add 2 sections, one from each back. That's up to you though. So after you've done that drawing and you've practiced it a few times, you're going to want to add color to it with different mediums. Maybe once you use crayon, maybe once you use chalk and you blend it, maybe you use marker. Each thing that you use, each medium, will give it a bit of a different effect. Moving on to step 2, you're going to add some shading. So let's just go ahead and add shading to this pumpkin that we have right here. There are a few different ways you can use shading. You can use something called hatching or cross hatching. So I'm going to do it up in the corner for you, and then I'll do the type of shading that I prefer down here. Hatching is drawing a series of small lines very, very closely together. Cross hatching is when you draw those same lines very close together, and then you run the lines going in the opposite direction, crossing over that. Both of these create a darkened area, which is what you want when you apply shading. I'm just going to do a very simple shading called the smudging technique for you. The most important thing when you're working with shading is to determine where your light is coming from. If I have the sun right up here, this is my sun, the light's coming from this side. That means it's going to be lighter here, and this part of the pumpkin is going to make a shadow that goes over to here. So if my light source is over here, my shadow is going to be on the opposite side. If I had done my light over here, this part would be light and bright, and my shadow would come over here. Because the pumpkin is kind of like an oval, on the opposite side, I am going to lightly sketch a shape that's kind of in an oval. Then I'm going to take my pencil. You can use charcoal, you can use lots of different things to blend, but since most of us have pencils handy, let's use pencil to add our shading. Instead of using it on a point, you're going to lay it down on its side. And working in the same direction, moving your pencil side to side, you're going to go ahead and fill in that space. It's always a good idea to start lighter. You can go darker as you go. Then you'll take your finger and you'll blend the charcoal of the pencil together to create a shadow. You may decide it needs to be a little bit bigger. If you decide it needs to be a little smaller, you simply erase to get what you want. So go ahead and pick hatching, cross-hatching, or just simply smudging and blending to create a shadow coming off of the opposite end of wherever your light is coming from. That's step 2. Step 3 is to get some perspective. Now, if you're a 5th grader at Star Academy, you just completed a project with perspective, drawing pumpkins falling into space. Perspective is using a flat piece of paper, but using specific drawing techniques to make something look different than it actually is. When we talk about perspective, there are actually 4 rules of perspective that we follow. So if we want to talk about the 4 rules or elements of perspective, they are size, which means the larger objects appear to be larger. The smaller will appear further away. Placement. So if I am creating a piece of art, I put my larger ones at the bottom. The bottom of the page is going to be closest to you. As you go further away, it'll get smaller. If I have a pumpkin close to the camera, it's large. As I go further away, it becomes much smaller. Overlapping. This is my pumpkin. If I have a pencil behind it, which one appears to be in front? The one that is in the front, the pumpkin appears to be in front because the pencil is behind it, meaning not all of the pencil shows. And fading. I notice a lot of details on the pumpkin when it's close up or large. As it goes further and further away, I don't notice as many details because it is more in the distance. So there are a few different ways you can add perspective. You can do something like the pumpkins in space. If you want to do that, 5th graders, you can be the expert artists to help all of the other Girl Scouts learn how to do this. Simply create your largest pumpkins at the bottom, size and placement, and as you climb or travel up your paper, your pumpkins will become smaller and smaller with less detail. Maybe I have one that is fading in the background, getting smaller as you climb up the page, applying all of these elements of perspective. There's another way to add perspective. Another way to add perspective is by using a horizon line and a vanishing point. So if I want to do something like that, let's go ahead and turn our paper this way. I can draw a horizon line, which is the line that separates the background of my paper from all of the details that are happening in the midground and foreground. Then I'm going to add a dot. And you may want to use a ruler for this. You don't have to, but it might be a good idea. I'm going to draw a line, one coming down at this angle, and then I'm going to draw a line, one coming down at this angle on your paper. I am going to make a tree scene along this is my road. So I'm using perspective with one vanishing point, still following my 4 elements. So size, I'm going to make a tree along the side of the road. My fall tree that does not have any branches. The largest trees are in the front. As I climb up the road and go further on the page, my trees become smaller as they are further away and smaller as they go. I can do the same thing on the other side of the page if I want to add trees over there as well. Larger in the front. I'm obviously going very, very fast. You can pause this video or you can take more time, just watch and remember as I'm doing this. You will clearly take more time than I am. I'm just giving you an overview. And then when I get to the background, I can create a mountain scene, whatever I like to be in the background. Maybe a sun coming up around it or the sun going down, up to you. But you give the illusion of the road. You could even do like the line on the road if you wanted to. The lines getting bigger and smaller as they go up the page. So step 4 looks like you get to use your imagination. So those I just am going to explain, but really leave up to you. One of the options says draw a new cover for your favorite book or music album. That sounds fun. Drawing a cartoon sounds like fun. You can draw a logo. Logos are always really fun if you have a favorite food item, or if you have a favorite sports team, or a favorite maybe cartoon that you like you can draw the logo for that. And then step number 5, it says make your masterpiece and show it off. So since you're all working together in a Girl Scout group, it might be a really neat idea to use either one of your perspective drawings that has been colored in, or you can use one of your observational drawings that you sketch with whatever vanishing point, and you can discuss as a group why you chose to do what you did, what you like about it, maybe what you might change in the future. I hope you guys have fun. Sounds like a great badge to earn.